Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen, Anderson, Bates, Bell, Berryhill, Block, Canella, De Leon, Fuller, Gaines, Galgiani, Glazer, Hall, Hancock, Hernandez, Hertzberg, Hill, Hueso, Huff, Jackson, Lada, Leno, Leyva, Liu, McGuire, Mendoza, Mitchell, Monning, Morlock, Morrell, Wynn, Nilsson, Pan, Pavley, Roth, Runner, Stone, Vidak, Wykowski, Wolk.
Members, we are absent a quorum. If everyone could kindly come to the Senate floor so we can start, that would be wonderful. Please call the roll.
Allen, Anderson, Bates, Bell, Berryhill, Block, Canella, De Leon, Fuller, Gaines, Galgiani, Glazer, Hall, Hancock, Hernandez, Hertzberg, Hill, Hueso, Huff, Jackson, Lada, Leno, Leyva, Liu, McGuire, Mendoza, Mitchell, Monning, Morlock, Morrell, Wynn, Nilsson, Pan, Pavley, Roth, Runner, Stone, Vidak, Wykowski, Wolk.
Members, a quorum is present. Would the members and our guests beyond the rail and in the gallery please rise? We will be led in prayer this morning by our chaplain, Sister Michelle Gorman, after which please remain standing. We will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Senator Roth.
So let us center ourselves in the holy presence of God. Abraham Lincoln said, "In the end, it's not the years in our life that count, it's the life in our years." So gracious and merciful God, as we remember the birthday and gift of Abraham Lincoln's life, we thank you for the gift of today. Invite us to discover your presence in each person that we meet and in every event that we encounter. Teach us when to speak and when to listen, when to ponder and when to share. In moments of challenge and decision, attune our hearts to the whisperings of your wisdom. As we undertake ordinary and unnoticed tasks, gift us with the simple joy. When our day goes well, may we rejoice. When it grows difficult, surprise us with new possibilities. When life is overwhelming, call us to Sabbath moments to restore your peace and harmony. May our living today reveal your goodness. Amen.
Members, do we have any privileges of the floor? Seeing none. Senator Gaines, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Today I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge in the gallery a group of students from my district. Destiny Kids is a ministry in Redding, California that helps students who would not otherwise have the opportunity to meet with leaders in government. Please join me in welcoming them and encouraging their enthusiasm to serve. Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning. Welcome to your California State Senate. Thank you, Senator Gaines. Senator Stone?
Good morning, Madam President and members. I'm very honored to have with us today some very special people. Many of you know that my prior stint in government was working as a Board of Supervisor in the wonderful county of Riverside, and I always tried to surround myself by people that I thought were much smarter than myself to advance my agenda in the best interest of my constituents, and I could not have done that job without these two particular people that are here today. One I'd like to introduce is my former Secretary Rosa Esparza, if she would stand up, and also Opal Helwig, who was a ledge aide that was very instrumental in helping people with the social services of the county administered, helping our 2.3 million people, and also Opal's sister, Marcia Creamer, who was a Navy veteran for 8 years, and her spouse, Paula Creamer, retired Air Force. She's here today, so if we please give them a warm Senate welcome, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Stone, and welcome, ladies. All right, members, any other privileges of the floor? All right, moving on to messages from the governor. Messages will be deemed read. Messages from the assembly will be deemed read, and reports of committee will be deemed read and amendments adopted. Senator Fuller, for what purpose do you rise?
Introduction.
Please proceed.
Members, I'd like to introduce my guests today, if my husband would stand up with them. Susan and Herman Seidman and their children, Michael and Max. And Michael and Max, stand up and wave, boys. We're hoping that they'll be taking my place someday. They're from Corona and Hemet. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Fuller, and welcome. Senator Allen, for what purpose do you rise?
I'd also like to make a couple introductions. As was mentioned, we've got the wonderful young people here from the Youth in Government program, and I've got two constituents of mine from Santa Monica, Jack Sadler, who actually worked on my campaign, and Jenny Keene, who I've known for quite some time in the Santa Monica school system. They're here, and we just want them to stand and introduce themselves. Jenny will be presenting a bill on lane splitting not too long from now as part of the Youth in Government program. So if you have questions about that controversial issue, please go say hello to her. I also wanted to introduce Elliot Bell-Krasner, who is here. He works for the American Council of Young Political Leaders, which is an organization that's largely funded by the U.S. State Department to fund political exchange between young leaders from other countries and the United States and vice versa. And we hosted a delegation here with him, both from China and also from a series of Arab countries. I had the opportunity to go to the Philippines when I was a school board member with the ACYPL. And so if you know young people between the ages of 25 and 40 who are from all different walks of political life, Republicans, Democrats, please do consider nominating them for one of these life-changing experiences with the American Council of Young Political Leaders. So I want to introduce Elliot.
Thank you, Senator Allen. Welcome. Members, we are moving on to motions, resolutions, and notices. Pursuant to Senate Rule 2910, the following bills are referred to the Rules Committee. Item 53, AB 558, and item 54, AB 1050. Without objection, the Senate journals for February 8th through February 12th, 2016 will be adopted as corrected by the minute clerk. Seeing no objection, they are adopted. Introductions and first reading of bills. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1022 by Senator Runner, enacting to school districts. And Senate Bill 1023 by the Committee on Judiciary, enacting to courts and making an appropriation therefor.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Moving on to consideration of the daily file, Senate third reading, item 45. Senator Pan, are you prepared to present? Pass on file. Thank you. Item 46, Senator Bell, are you prepared to present? Senator Bell? Pass on file. Thank you very much. Senator Hall, not at his desk. We are returning to motions and resolutions, members. This would be the proper time to do adjourn in memories. Senator Jackson?
Thank you, colleagues. I rise to adjourn in the memory of Carpinteria resident, military veteran, and wonderful activist named Bill Connell. He was known affectionately by many of us as the hot dog man because he sold an array of Franks and sausages and sauerkraut and great relish at his All-American Surf Dog. It was a stand located on Highway 101 in Carpinteria. And if you ever had occasion to be driving in the district, you'd see a big American flags and a red cart. And if you were smart enough and lucky enough to stop and have not only a great hot dog, but to hear the stories and the conversations that Bill had about everything in life that you could imagine. But he was also a persistent and effective advocate for military veterans. His personal crusade was for the state to recognize a provision in the California Constitution that exempts honorably discharged veterans who work as vendors from paying sales tax. He drove back and forth to Sacramento for years to meet with legislators, their staff, members of the Board of Equalization, and attorneys to make his case for veterans who are vendors. And he, being one of them, took this on as an enormous cause and probably spent much more money driving back and forth and arguing his case than he ever would get back on the constitutional right he had to be exempted from those taxes. Finally, the legislature affirmed this position in 2009, and a bill authored by my colleague, Assemblymember Doss Williams, was passed in 2014 to compensate him and other veterans. He served in the Army during the Vietnam War era when he was stationed in Europe and was a professional boxer from 1977 to 1980, winning 14 of 19 heavyweight bouts. He made a difference locally and on a statewide basis. He will be sorely missed by those of us in the district and in the Capitol. He was truly a heavyweight on this issue. And I must say that he was someone who truly believed in this country and in its laws. And ironically, he and I were to meet at an event in Carpinteria on a Monday morning. He died in his sleep that Sunday night. So I ask, we adjourn in his memory. This is the kind of person who fought and loved his country, and every day of his life tried to make it a better place. I apologize, I have a little laryngitis. Thank you, and I would ask that we adjourn in his memory.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. Please bring his name forward so he can be properly memorialized. Senator Monning.
Yes, Madam President, an adjourn in memory. Madam President, members, I rise to adjourn in memory of Christy O'Donnell, who passed away last Saturday, February 6th, at her home in Valencia, California. Miss O'Donnell was a single mother who died at the age of 47 after a valiant fight with cancer. She also campaigned in support of the End of Life Option Act until its passage last year. Christy O'Donnell was a remarkable woman. She served as an LAPD officer and reached the rank of sergeant before she retired to become a full-time civil rights attorney. As the single mother of her daughter, Bailey, Christy O'Donnell worked as a police officer while she attended law school at night. As an attorney, Christy O'Donnell represented clients suffering from developmental disabilities. When Christy was diagnosed with cancer, she faced it head-on. She tried all treatment therapies before facing the reality of the terminal nature of her illness. During her battle with cancer, Christy also joined efforts with the surviving members of Brittany Maynard's family to seek a death with dignity option in California. She stated often that she wanted to die at home and that she did not want her daughter to have to witness her suffering. Christy knew that the course of her cancer would probably take her life before she could be a beneficiary of the law. But she continued to mobilize during her final remaining days to support the End of Life Option Act, and was also a plaintiff in 2 separate lawsuits seeking the right to end her life on her own terms in a peaceful and compassionate manner. She testified in front of committees here in Sacramento, spoke with individual legislators, their staff members, and she met with a representative of Governor Brown's office. She joined us on the Senate floor when we passed SB 128, despite her growing weakness and limited mobility. On the day that ABX 215 passed the Assembly, Christy was too weak to travel to Sacramento, but she continued to work on the bill's passage from her home. We learned that over 400 Los Angeles police officers called local legislators to urge their support for the legislation, in large measure as a result of their friendship, respect, and support for Christy. Christy's passing was fortunately described by her brother and daughter as peaceful, and they have asked that their appreciation for the hospice workers who helped Christy in her final days be shared with all. While we did not know Christy for a long period of time, we shared an incredible bond as we were able to see passage of the End of Life Option Act during her lifetime. It was indeed an honor to know Christy, and our thoughts and condolences go out to her daughter Bailey, her brother Jay Watts, and her extended network of friends and family. Christy O'Donnell's life was cut short by cancer, but she achieved much in her shortened life and will be long remembered by her LAPD colleagues, her friends and family, and by all of us who had the honor and pleasure of working with her to advance the cause of compassion and choice in the state of California. Thank you, members, and I ask that we adjourn in the memory of Christy O'Donnell.
Thank you, Senator Monning. Senator Wolk?
Thank you, Madam President. I join Senator Monning in rising to adjourn in Christy's memory. I first met Christy at the Senate when she was preparing to testify in March of last year at the Senate Health Committee. She gave some extraordinary testimony. She asked the committee to recognize her as a Republican, as a Christian, and as a mother, and why this End of Life Option Act was so important to her. And I quote, she said, "My whole life, I've dreamed of seeing Bailey in her wedding dress. I dreamed of holding my grandbabies. I do not want to leave California in order to die peacefully." She said, "It is unlikely that I'll be alive to see the outcome of this bill." Unfortunately, that was the case. Yet, despite all of that, and despite the fact that her body was ravaged by stage 4 terminal metastatic cancer, she was brave and courageous and strong. She was an extraordinary woman until the very, very end. She fought for others all her life, and she fought for this option so that others would not suffer. That's pretty extraordinary. I ask you to join Senator Monning and I in recognizing her courage, her strength, and to adjourn in her memory.
Thank you, Senator Wolk. Senator Nielsen, thank you for your patience. For what purpose do you rise?
Madam President, I would like to add my sentiments as chair of the Veterans Committee, adjourning in memory Mr. Bill Connell, if I may.
Please proceed.
Bill Connell indeed was quite a legend. I get amusement of that, I believe was an 1893 statute that he hearkened to champion his cause with the Board of Equalization. But he's a classic example of a citizen who decided to rise up and participate in government. championing the cause that he believed in. Probably motivated by his own cause and interest for a moment, but he broadened it to a far greater purpose, a purpose for all veterans. Became a self-appointed expert, if you will, of how government works, at great expense to himself, making many trips up here, advocating, working the legislature, learning how to be effective in the legislature, and in fact, becoming effective on behalf of all veterans. Being a boxing aficionado, I appreciated that legacy of the man too. He was a sparring partner for many of the great heavyweights that fought, including Larry Holmes. He was a big man. One of our sergeants was of that ilk too many years ago, a fellow named Buddy Bear, of great stature, similar to Bill Connell. He was a big man with a big heart, and a man with an even bigger legacy. It is an honor to, on behalf of the Veterans Committee, and I think I can fairly express the sentiments of our good colleagues on that committee, that we honor the memory and the legacy of this good man.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. Members, we are going to return to privileges of the floor, and then we will go back to adjourn in memories. Senate third reading. Thank you very much. Item 47, Senator Hall.